Alrighty, welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington, serving information entrepreneurs throughout the US and the world. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. Oh, today we are going to have some fun. Welcome to Michelle Nedelec.
Yay! Hello, how you doing?
Doing
Super
so
happy
well.
to be here.
So happy to have you here. I feel like this is only like years overdue. I mean, how many years? I don't know. Too many. But for those of you that don't know Michelle, Michelle Nedelec has over 20 years of experience in executive coaching, working with clients ranging from 8 figures to solopreneurs. Michelle runs the creative side of her done-for-you marketing tech services, helping entrepreneurs set up and maintain their Infusionsoft or Keep Max Classic through her company Awareness Strategies at awarenessstrategies.com. And Michelle is another one of my favorite Canadians, just a hop across the border. I know. Michelle and I first met, gosh, it would have been 2017. March of 2017, right before my daughter Henley was born. So it literally has been a few years. But welcome, Michelle. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Yay, I'm super excited to be here with you.
So fun. I know.
Yes.
Well, it's been a little bit since we've connected, and we were just talking puppies and pandemic and losing our minds and just dropping everything and quitting and doing pottery. What else?
You know, all the usual subjects.
Just kidding. We would never do that. We love what we do, but we do have, for me, I call them my mom moments where it's like, give me the rubber room between the puppies and the kids. I need a rubber room for me. Let's be clear, not for anybody else. But Michelle, tell us, for those that have not connected with you before, heard your story, tell us a little bit about your start in entrepreneurship.
Oh, my start in entrepreneurship. Well, that's going way back.
You can give us the highlights if you want, but I like to hear how people got hooked, right? How they started down that path.
Well, once upon a time, land far, far away, long, long ago, I had this insane idea to, well, it even started back before that. So where do I start? So I fell in love with the love of my life in university. We broke up, we hooked back up together again, and right as he was finishing university. So he was going to become a park warden. And I figured I needed to have an occupation. Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I mean, this to say that changed so many times. I wish I had known then to just throw a dart at the wall. But instead, I grabbed all of the brochures from the local trade post-secondary and put them on the table. Needed all the first year, 1 year programs. I had to complete this 1 year because he graduated in 1 year. So it came down to 2 things. It was either avionics metallurgy, which I probably should have taken, or dental assisting. So I figured avionic metallurgy wasn't going to work in the middle of the forest somewhere in parks. So I decided to go into dental assisting. I took dental assisting and I fell asleep during the procedures and realized this is not for me. Mm-hmm. But I did realize that being a dentist sounded really awesome. But then I realized 7 years of university was not my gamut. So I concocted this fantastic plan of going to join the Red Cross in Colombia. And if you're a chairside assistant in Colombia, the dentist would teach you dentistry, basically. And I found out that you could come back to Canada and challenge the exam and become a dentist. I went, oh, this is awesome. But that was in the 90s, and it was like guerrilla warfare could have broke out any moment in Colombia. So I went, how much does it cost to charter an airplane? So I found out it was $100,000 US to basically buy the plane and the pilot to be able to get the hell out of Dodge if I needed to. And I went, wow, that may as well have been $1 million to me because I had no money to my name and I was, 18, whatever. So I found out from a friend of mine that you could become a dental assistant in Saudi Arabia at the King Fahd Hospital. And they paid you $50,000 a year US, and you stayed in the American compound and basically got all your food and room and board for free. And I went, well, that's perfect. That'll give me my $100,000. all I need to do to get to the King Fahad is to have 5 years experience as a dental assistant in Canada or to have 2 years experience in the Northwest Territories. So guess what I did? Packed up my bags, moved up to Nunavut in the Northwest Territories on January 2nd, and went, oh my God, these people are insane and they live in the 18th century. This is ridiculous. So my poor little brain snapped. Long story short, I was stuck in the porch of the housing unit for the dental assistants. And by the time I unpacked my stuff, went and talked to the girls, came back, half my stuff was frozen. I'm like, I'm not going to live through the night. So that was fun. Long story short, I ended up getting pregnant and could not, needless to say, go to Saudi Arabia as a single mother. So that entire plan was kiboshed. So turns out, father of my son, lovely individual that he is, happened to run a restaurant up there. And he recognized in me that I was kind of smart and I could probably run a business. So we decided to start not only one, but 3 companies. So we started an electronics store. We bought out the building next door to where his restaurant was and started an electronics store. At the back of that, we put in a tanning salon, as in white people going on holidays needed to tan before they went down south. Great marketing stories on that one, let me tell you. And the third one was a Polar Bed and Breakfast. So I was one of the first to have an Airbnb up in Nunavut in the Northwest Territories at the ripe old age of 23.
Wow.
So
Well, that was the fast path into entrepreneurship. The fast sideways path into entrepreneurship.
It was awesome. And yeah, we had a meeting with the BDC, they're a lending organization. I think they're Canadian. And he goes, so what do you think what are your profit margins going to be next year? Like, I don't know. How would I know? I've never run a business before. He goes, okay, well, you kind of make it up. Like, really? This is how businesses are run? I'm going to sign a $500,000 loan on a guess and a hope and a prayer? And yeah, pretty much.
Oh my.
Awesome.
Yeah, there was your introduction. Did you say in the 90s?
Yep.
Here's your money. Yep. So there you were with 3 businesses.
Yeah.
Right. Tell us a little bit about the time between that early start, like jump into business, and what you're doing now, right? Which is totally different. I'm sure that business experience has served you well. It always does, right?
Well, I do love to tell the story that especially with Polar Tanning, the phone was ringing off the hook in the tanning salon, and anybody in the tri-state area can really appreciate this one. Because everybody wanted to get tanning done up there, of course, but they wanted their hides done, not their wives done. So it was.
Oh my gosh, tanning their hides. Holy cow.
Yeah,
To
they're like,
dry out all the
"What?"
pelts.
I'm like, we don't do that kind of tanning. And they're like, what kind of tanning do you do?
The kind with goggles.
Yeah. Massage oil and bright lights. And they're like, no,
Oh my
you're wrong market.
gosh. Right. So how long did that business last?
Well, we actually did quite well because fortunately, most of the women that were up there were transported, as we like to say. So they were actually from down south. They were transported up north. So they're like, yes, finally I get to go to get a tan, because the nemesis of being up there with, 6 months of darkness was you didn't
Winter.
really get a tan
Yeah.
at all. And then when the sun hit, it was really bright and hot, and then there was the bugs and whatnot. So you just did not get a tan. So it was
You're
really
really
nice to
selling
actually
this place. Where is
Right?
it? And how did we get there? Yeah.
If you find yourself teleported into the 18th century today,
Wow.
yeah, then we
Right.
were perfect for it. But
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
it was actually a lot of fun. We actually did really well. It was super fun doing the bed and breakfast because we were in a commercial spot, and we basically gutted the whole place and rebuilt it, put in bedrooms and designed and decorated and did the whole interior decorating thing, got into painting. That was super fun and became a professional painter. People actually bought my paintings, which I was super stoked about.
Nice.
And
Like paintings that you would create in an art studio, or bought your painting like you come and paint on their walls?
no, like on a canvas. So I
Yeah.
did the artwork in the in the rooms. And then people
Mm.
liked them so much they asked if they could buy them. I'm like, hell
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yes, you
Cool.
may.
All these things I didn't know about you, Michelle. Right.
So yeah, that was fun. So since then,
Yeah.
let's just say there's been a lot of dips and valleys, and
Mhm.
we calculated the other day that I've done 28 pivots before pivots were cool.
Right.
So
Before that we started all overusing the word pivot during
pivot.
COVID. Yeah, pivot, 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 right?
So I get really bored really quickly. So I basically sold all my businesses. It was like, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to do this? So I'd get them up and running, and life was grand, and money was coming in, and people are asking for stuff, and this is awesome, and I don't want to do it anymore. So go ahead and sell it. So I guess that was serial entrepreneurialism before that was cool
Mm.
too. And just had a delightful array of occupations, you might say, which were the perfect lineup for becoming a business coach because there really isn't a business that I don't understand the fundamentals of and can help people. To me, business is business. There are certain fundamentals you need, like cash, revenue, clients, all those kind of fun things,
Mm.
and being able to put those systems in place so that you have the startup phase, you go through then the growth phase. Then once your growth is performing, you can move into the scaling phase. Once you can scale, you can then exit, which is an also a fun state to be able to either sell it to somebody, hand it over to current management, to your kids, to whomever. And what is that plan, and how do you actually start companies with that in mind so that you can go through those 4 stages faster?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and before we dig into some of the some of the specifics, I'd
Mhm.
love to know overall, what is it that you enjoy about business?
Strategy. I love strategizing about a business because even though there's kind of a Lego aspect to a business,
Mm.
you have the fundamentals, you put them together, and they're all kind of sort of the same. When you get those little nuances of what do you absolutely love to do and deliver, who loves receiving it and has the wherewithal to not only appreciate what you do, but the willingness to pay you for what you do, then you find that little sweet spot, and then it's like it's more than a puzzle. It's a kind of an investigative process of, okay, where do we find these people? How do we get a hold of them? How do we entice them? How do we bring them out and start having those relationships and those intriguing conversations that allow both parties to have fun in this engagement, so that it's more than just a business transaction.
Mm-hmm. Give us a sampling, give the listeners a sampling of the kinds, like the range of businesses that you've worked with over the years in your capacity as a coach or a marketing expert, or, whatever has evolved into your current role.
Uh,
I know you're quite skilled, and like you've done, I mean, I've been at events with you where you were in a room and you were teaching this person about copywriting and like getting in behind the scenes on this other person's website. And like you know a lot about online business, about all of the pieces. So share with us the types of clients that you've worked with in recent
well,
years,
yeah.
primarily.
Well, one of the fun ones that I like is when somebody's transitioning and they're taking their experience and they're going, I don't know what I want to do. So give me 2 completely random or from your experience kind of things that somebody might love to do.
Oh, just like,
Anything.
got
2
it.
random things
You mean within their business or two separate things in their life?
in their life.
Okay, so let's say photography
Hmm.
and writing.
Nice. So when people are looking at, okay, I have these 2 life experiences. I'm really good at it as a photographer. I love to do it. Maybe it's their passion project, but not their professional project. And they were a professional writer. How do I start to combine those 2 things and make them something? So now we can look at, okay, what is it specifically about being a photographer that would make the writing unique to that individual? So that could come into, you could write articles for a geographical location. You could write travel articles. You could do, and we start to get into the fun of what kind of businesses are out there that include photography and writing. So this is what I did for a long time, is being able to find that thing. So then this individual that might be interested in that now finds themselves getting contracts for parks departments, for places that need to have the photography done and the writing done. I want a brochure. Hundreds of people are going to be coming through. They need to see it. They need to get the information on warnings about bears and things, but they also want to know about the local flowers and all that kind of fun stuff. As a photographer that likes writing, they're in a unique position to be able to get those contracts, to be able to fulfill on that. If they happen to speak 2 languages in Canada, they're set. But so the actual clients that I have worked with aren't that far off from there. So one of the most unique ones that I've worked with was an individual that sold oil rigs, basically. They would have derricks, they would take them down, and he actually sold Canadian derricks internationally, which seems like a really weird thing because it turns out it's just like a bunch of metal. Once you tear it down and recreate it, it's just metal. But that was his forte, was connecting the right people and putting those things together, and then going, okay, well, how do I maximize this other than just meeting people randomly on airplanes and at oil and gas shows? And that was basically how he was making his money before that. We've had legal offices, we've had electricians, we've had costume shop, which is super fun. I've worked with Sandler franchisees and worked with hundreds of them. They were awesome. That was super fun.
And for people that don't know, Sandler's in sales, right? Is it sales? Yeah.
Sales and management training. So, so the franchisees would basically, they would either have been in sales and are looking to transition, become, and run their own company. And they just decided, hey, this is awesome material. People need to know this. I think I'll go and start up a franchise. And then they realize, hey, being a C-suite executive that's super successful isn't quite the same as running your own franchise. It's like they have to kind of transition from that entrepreneur or the employee mindset into the entrepreneurial mindset. And a lot of that transition, as well as the tangible, the marketing of it and hiring and, all the things that go along with doing business. So the variety for sure is there, and the experience that I can bring to the table is also there. So when somebody says, yeah, but my business is different, I do accounting, I do bookkeeping, and yep, get that. Got it. Okay, now what? That's not nearly as unique as it could be, because actually there's a lot of people out there that do that. When somebody comes to me and says nobody else does this, then we have something unique, and then it becomes either fun to figure out how to wordsmith it, because oftentimes when somebody really does have a unique business, nobody else knows what that means. So they'll say things like, I'm a das, and it's like, does anybody else on the planet know what that means? And if the answer is no, then we have to start drawing a picture of what that means in order to be able to market that to people that really don't understand it. Like once upon a time it was a coach, now everybody's coach. Now you have to differentiate yourself, which is a totally different issue.
Right, right. So in your services, are you coaching the business around things beyond just their marketing then?
We have since narrowed down our niche, if you want to put it that way, in that helping people get their Infusionsoft set up. And for anybody that doesn't know what Infusionsoft is, that's a whole conversation unto itself, especially if you don't know what a CRM is. But it's a piece of software that allows you to not only contain your prospecting your clients' information, it allows you to be able to segregate that data so that you can retarget them specifically to their specific needs, so that you're not bombarding everybody with all of your messages. You're honing in on who they are, what they're interested in, and being able to get them the information they want. Not only that, but it's also has an open API, which means nothing to anybody either. But what that means is that it allows people or other software programs to be able to connect with it. And when you have the genius that I happen to have on my side of the business, dude named Brad Mooney, we can go into a company and help them with their silos of data. We can help them to integrate their systems so that they're not doing things manually anymore, or putting data on spreadsheets and then having to move information, upload it, download it, and creating what we like to call dirty data. I like to call it dirty data because it's just fun to say, but
So many people have dirty data out there.
Fine. Yeah. So we help them to clean all that fun stuff up and get their systems running more effectively so that the creative part of their business, which are the human beings that work for them, can do the creative things that are required, and anything that's systematic and manual and repetitive, we can put in the systems to automate that so that that happens 24/7. Nobody has to think about it anymore, ideally. And the human resources that you have working for your company can do the creative things that are appreciated by your clientele.
Yeah. For folks that are familiar with CRMs, and there are going to be some that probably aren't, maybe some solopreneurs or small businesses that haven't yet implemented a CRM. And I know technology can stump a lot of small businesses, right? They get started, or they don't get started because they don't know what tool to choose. Share with us a little bit about why Infusionsoft is the tool of choice for you guys and for your clients.
We love it because, well, when we got into all of this, I was speaking from stage and I was going around talking on other people's stages, kind of like this, except for in person. And I needed my tech done for me. So I, again, having this unique position, I'm going, hey, Brad, can you do this for me? So he's trying to figure out this whole online thing because his forte was working with huge oil and gas companies and the IBMs of the world and helping them to create software that hadn't been created before. So they're like, hey, we need to have this stuff. How do we do it? And he was the architecture that would put together this, how many people you need, how many servers, how long it's going to take, how many millions of dollars, and go and do it. So my project to him was pretty small, but it was also a kind of a left field thing for him. But he went and searched the software and said, okay, you need a shopping cart. You need somewhere to have your client's information other than your cell phone. You need to have all these things. So he put together what I like to call Frankenware. And Frank worked nicely for me for a while, but he started to drive Brad nuts because as I was asking for things to get done, poor Frank was kind of dropping an arm here and an ear there and there. It just wasn't working for Brad. So then Brad stumbled across Infusionsoft and he goes, hey, I found this stuff. I want to scrap everything else and put this in place. I'm like, dude, you can do whatever your heart's content is. I'm not touching it. Like, you do you. And if it makes you happy, great. And he was so excited, so enthralled with this software. He's like, do you have any clue how much this software would cost you if you were like a big company? Like 5 years ago, before I got it, that kind of software would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to be able to do those things. And quite frankly, the only software that came close to it at the time was Salesforce. And even Salesforce broke its software down into modules so that people could afford the tools that they needed, because in its entirety, it's a $5,000-$10,000 system, even today, per month, to have the entire suite of Salesforce working for you, which is awesome if you're the IBMs of the world.
Right.
Because it's that robust. So what Infusionsoft did was it kind of scaled down and became affordable for small businesses to be able to run their systems and have it integrated and to use a logic-based system behind the emails, which allows you then to segregate your emails so that you can send emails to people that are your prospects and different emails to your clients that already know about that. They're already engaged in the program. They don't need to be getting your marketing information. They need your fulfillment emails so that they can, do the things and participate in the things that they've already bought. Yeah. And that becomes a huge issue because if you've ever bought tickets to an event and you've already bought the tickets and then they keep bombarding you with, hey, this event's coming up, you should buy tickets to this event. It's like, I am. And all you really want to do is unsubscribe. That's what your clients are doing. And it drives them crazy because they don't want to get that information, but they do want to get the information of, hey, this is the news about the parking situation downtown, come this way, not that way, because there's construction going on or whatever. They want to know that the information that they get from you is pertinent to them. So that's one of the beauty of it.
Right. That's a great example because my next question was going to be, do you think that people can afford in, let's just call it this day and age, to not have a list that they have the capability to segregate?
And no, like, I think it's more pertinent than ever,
Mm.
because people are getting so bombarded with email, and it's kind of sad, crazy. But what's happening in the background is a lot of people are moving to Google for their email, so it's a lot
Mhm.
easier to just put all their company email on Google, and it works. It's a good, great service provider. But then Google's going crazy, going, "Oh my God, do you have any idea how many newsletters you've subscribed to? Why have you subscribed to this many newsletters?" And you're going, "I haven't." Half of them are real spam, like
Yeah.
the stuff that comes to you with zero,
You
you
did
know,
not sign up for
you did
it. You
not
did not.
sign up for
Yep.
how to do basket weaving 101 underwater. That email, I don't know why that came in, and this is not me, and there's no unsubscribe from it. That's real spam. Those ones are, um, for the most part, they will bounce or fish off of other servers, which is why the big guys can't stop them from doing it, because when they're bouncing off of somebody's server, if they just close down that server, they're closing down the legitimate business behind that server, not the one bouncing off of it, if that makes sense. So they're having an issue trying to get rid of those ones. So in the meanwhile, what they're doing is working on the legitimate businesses that just aren't playing by the rules of the game. So if the actual emails are saying, "Hey, we're going to send this out to everybody. We're going to buy lists because we know that you've, you know, I don't know, you registered your name on this site. We hacked it. We took all the emails. So we're going to go and send you emails just because." Now, that doesn't sound like a real legitimate business, but sometimes they do that.
Mm.
And you get those kind of emails. So Google's trying to shut down on those. And a lot of times, the real businesses that just aren't playing by the rules look like those businesses to Google. So now they're kind of shutting down everybody, which is why you get a whole ton of email going to your spam, even though you've signed up for it, you're excited
Mhm.
about it, you've been clicking on it, you've been waiting for it, you paid for it, it still goes to spam. Google doesn't know that for some reason, which we can't figure out why, because they have enough data, God knows. They should be able to
Right? They
figure
should
that
know
out.
everything. I know.
Everything. You know when I'm thinking about buying something, how can you not tell when I've already bought it?
Right. You've been showing me a blue truck for 6 months because I did a test, right? I spoke into my device. I would never buy a blue truck. And so say blue
Poof.
truck, like, yeah, there it is. Getting ads for it now.
Right?
Well, it is, I mean, email is fascinating
It's
because
fascinating.
it's, it, I think, is still the communication avenue of choice. It
Mhm.
works. It's, for the most part, although you obviously you have to pay for the tools and the softwares to help you deliver that stuff, track it, do all of that. It's not like these other platforms where, you can publish something and you just know that it's not getting shown to anybody, right?
Right?
But yes, and I remember last year, I think maybe you and I had spoken during that time or chatted online or something about the Yahoo, AOL emails not receiving anything, right? The
Yeah.
spam filters shutting even all of these legitimate email deliveries down. And so it is a conundrum. And on top of that, if you are getting your emails into the inboxes of your people, but you're not speaking to them, right? There's some people are just so tired of being blasted and tired of emails that are not for them. It's, you know, uh, I can
So,
send,
so important.
it's so true. And you just want to test this, like send an affiliate email out to a business that you support, but maybe is unrelated to your business, and just watch how many unsubscribes you get, right?
Right?
Even when you think it's a fabulous business or offer and you want it in front of your people, you can just see in real time how tired people are of email.
Like, and you have to be very, very um, attentive to how you sent out affiliate emails, especially now, because if they don't recognize that it's from you, then they'll assume that it's a phished email and they will unsubscribe from it,
And
not realizing.
will you describe what a phished email is, what that means?
Absolutely. So if, say you send out an email and I happen to be a
Oh,
dirty emailer. I'm a bad emailer. I'm a bad hacker. And I will send my emails off of your server to your client list,
Oh,
basically,
looking like me. You've
looking
pretended
like
to
you,
look like me. Okay.
right? But they're not. So it's kind of a look-alike, like you've put something out there that looks like somebody else, but it's not. Like there's
Mm,
there's so many ways that somebody could hack a system. It's a really muddled kind of description of it, but it's just not them. Right.
yeah.
Okay. So if I look at a link, a really obvious phishing is if I look at a link and it says Heather's email and I click on it and it goes to some,
Right.
you know,
Random Yahoo
random
account or.
tree planting site, then that's a clear phishing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the same thing happens in the back end with emails and weird things like that. But if you send out an email and it has your affiliate's picture on the top, say, and it's like, hey, so and so, and you don't have the first name in their emails, which is also another kind of giveaway, and then you start talking about this other person that they don't know, they assume that it's the wrong one and they'll hit unsubscribe, thinking that they're unsubscribing from the phished address, but they're
Mm,
not. They're actually unsubscribing from your address, which means that even though you're trying to do something good for them and say, hey, this is awesome, this is amazing, and then they kind of punish you for having done that. So it's not that all affiliate emails are bad by any stretch of
mm,
anyone's imagination. They're actually fantastic, wonderful, and amazing, but you have to be very careful how you do them, especially now. And understanding that email, like it or not, is still considered to be one of the better assets of your client
mhm.
base. So it proves that you have a client base. Whereas if I have followers on Facebook, and you can verify this in legal terms, if I have a bunch of followers on Facebook, they're one, not really mine because the platform is Facebook's and they can close me down anytime. Two, I don't really have a way of connecting with them other than through that same platform, which is not, as you mentioned, guaranteed by any stretch of anyone's imagination. And I have no way of selling that to somebody else. I can't give my list to you and say, here, you go market to them now. Whereas with an email list, you can buy my company and then you can continue to email to them and continue to have access to them to upsell, downsell, cross sell, whatever.
Well, and that piece is particularly important about, not building. And I've worked with numerous clients who, in fact, one just this past year who is really, she's anti-Facebook, which I get, right? I am too. But she really, really wanted to build her business out on Mighty Networks. Right. And I said, okay, where's your website? Where's your database going to live? Like, where are your opt-ins and your list building efforts taking place? And anyway, she kind of paused and I was like, this is not optional. Like I was kind of a bully about it. This is not optional. You can build on Mighty Networks and you at all times need to be redirecting people to something that you own, right? Your website, your list, whatever, for this very reason. I had another friend who built her entire business on what was the Google um oh my gosh, the Google service that they took down. It was like
I want to say Google.net and Google Face, Google something. It was,
oh,
and I forget already.
I know.
Google
And
Groups, Google
it was
Chat.
like that. What was it? Anyways, I'll think of it. It was basically one of the optional services on Google that people used as a platform. And one day they just decided to remove it. And
Mhm.
there went literally her entire business. Yes. And so it's, unfortunately people do learn that the hard way sometimes. They figure out how to do something really well. And so they build their, like, how many LinkedIn experts do you know where
Right? Where Facebook ones where
their
account is
entire
just closed.
business is built on LinkedIn, or their entire business is built on Instagram or something like that. It's
And for
anyways.
those of you listening, don't think that Discord or TikTok or uh, Telegram are any different.
Mm,
If you don't own the server, which you don't, it can be hacked, it can be dropped, it can be costed, it can be taken over. Twitter in the news
that's
right
right.
now happens to be very strong about 9% of the company owned by Elon Musk, and guess who's going to be having controlling interest in what's going on with it. I firmly believe that pharmaceuticals own the rest of it, so I think he's got an uphill battle as to who gets domain over what gets published. But if you think you're part of that conversation, you are kidding yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely, so much for so many small businesses, so much of your value and your potential to connect with clients and customers and to sell to them is through your list, through your database. So, Michelle, what do you see as some of the top mistakes, aside from, like, let's say, not segregating or
Mhm.
sending out affiliate emails in the wrong way and making them look like they're a phishing email? What are some of the top mistakes that you see, particularly by small businesses, when it comes to managing their CRMs?
For the most part, it's them trying to figure it out. That is the
Mm,
biggest mistake that most of them make is I will find the most simplistic software that's the easiest to use with the most um, kind of understandable interface, and I will go and do that, which is super sad because then you end up using things like Facebook as your CRM. So that is not a good idea. So it's being able to one, understand, like, I get you when you have limited resources, totally get that. Two, you want to be able to go in and just set up an email. You want to go in and just update so and so's contact information. And there are ways that you can do that. Um, I want to say smartly, but I don't mean intelligently. I mean without blowing up your systems long term. So it's in understanding that sometimes there are going to be skills in your business that are required that aren't necessarily going to be your forte. It's not in your wheelhouse.
right.
You might be like me, and accounting and bookkeeping is not my gamut. I mean, I love reconciling bank statements as much as anybody because that is super fun to me. It's like, how much did I make? This is awesome. How much did I spend? What did I spend that on? Totally cool with that. But that's not bookkeeping. That is not tax accounting. That is
Mm,
not any of those things. All of those things have to go to somebody else that it is in their wheelhouse. And tech is one of those things, especially now when you have to be online. It is becoming one of those things that you have to outsource to somebody that knows how to do it and loves to do it, because there's certain people that think techie and there are other people
mm,
that don't think techie. I may have a little bit of techie, but I'm certainly not considered a techie. And I'm not saying it as an insult. It's just a personality typing, the way somebody thinks. And when somebody thinks that way, it's awesome and amazing and wonderful. It's just not me. So
right.
if it's just not you, just don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
play in your tech. Quit
Well,
playing with
and
your tech
tech
and get
is,
back to work.
yeah, that's right. Tech is one of those things that I feel like is an exponential time suck if you don't know what you're doing, right? And so it's not like you can go over here and be like, oh, this will just take a couple minutes. You think it might, and then 4 hours later, you still haven't solved the problem. And how many times do you end up having to outsource that thing anyways, right? I'm raising my hand because I've done this. um, and
We're only
I,
talking from experience here, people. We're not telling
right.
you what to do when we're not doing
Excuse me.
it.
Well, and yeah, I think it is one of those things that is just an obvious from the start. You will scale faster. You will free up hordes of time if you just find somebody who understands your business, can help you plug in those pieces of technology, including your CRM. That's a huge, huge, huge component in regards to running and maintaining a small business and a happy client list, or potential client list, right? Taking care of your database. And truthfully, I will admit that the first year of COVID was the first time, even with, and I'm an Infusionsoft user, right? I've had Infusionsoft since 2015. I bought it, yeah, for my second business, not for my primary, not Pierce Law, but for the legal website Warrior, ahead of even having a database. But I was like, you know what? I want to create the kind of business that will rely on this type of software to be able to run. And but it wasn't, although I used it fairly well, I did not use it as consistently as I did the first year of COVID, when I mailed every week to my list, newsletter. I did an Ask Me Anything live every Monday. It was consistent. And people would actually email me if they didn't hear from me one week, like if it was a holiday week or I was, out with kids or whatever. like, hey, are you okay? We didn't hear from you. And this is the
Nice.
benefit, right, of using a CRM well, is that you actually do to start to develop those connections where people feel connected to you. If they're opening your stuff, you're delivering value, they actually start to expect it and rely on it, which is just such a fun place to be. Well, Michelle, I know that this whole world of technology, email marketing, automation, there's so much more that we could cover. But for folks that would like to reach out and learn more about how to get support in this area and about the ways that you guys at Awareness Strategies, I know you've referenced Brad a couple times. I have to give a shout out to both Brad and Michelle because I have worked with them. Brad, I call him my tech guy. He does a lot of stuff in that side of the world that I don't have to deal with. And I'm so grateful. And he really is like an engineer brain. I'm a pretty good problem solver, and I've tried to do things where I'll finally reach out to Brad and he'll be like, why didn't you reach out to me first? Like, what were you
What are you
doing
doing?
around with this? Right. And it's still like, I have to like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's what I have.
Here's
him
my
for.
thing, peeps. Everybody needs a techie in their back pocket.
Yes.
We operate totally differently. And I was really afraid to say this when we first started because I thought, oh my God, this is going to be the bane of my existence. But we really do operate differently in that we are in constant communication with our clients. So we happen to use Facebook Messenger as our communications. Like, hey, Brad, how you doing? I really need your help in
That's
this.
why I'm still
Please,
on Facebook,
please,
Michelle.
please.
Yeah.
Right? That's the reason I'm on Facebook. And so we go and we solve people's problems for them because we get that when stuff blows up, I was going to say the other word, when stuff blows up, you don't have 3 weeks to wait to go, oh yeah, you're in the queue and this is going to take, like, yeah, you're in the queue, but it'll probably get done today because, we triage.
Yeah.
Most companies don't triage. They put things in the queue because you've asked for them and they're planning out 3 weeks. Our clients are like, hey, I need this done. Can you do this? And not in a rude sort of way, but in a, it
Like,
blew
help
up.
me, I'm
We don't know
drowning.
what's going on.
Yes.
I need to have this done now. And those emergencies, if you're bleeding, we put you to the front of the line and we get things done for you. You have somebody that's attached to your account and they're in charge of saying, hey, I can do this. I will do this now. Or I don't know how to do this. This is beyond my capacity. I will go to the specialist in this, or I'll go to the specialist in that. I'll go to the specialist in this. And if you don't have a team of specialists on all those things, like, I don't know how you, like, internally, we don't know how you do it because we have 5 people. It's like, oh, that's a WordPress problem. That's a key problem. That's a challenge. So, okay.
Right.
And the person that needs to come in comes in and fixes the problem. So that's the way we operate, which is totally different than any other company that I've seen. And it's working for us. So we're going to keep doing it because small businesses, they really need that triage.
Yeah.
They can't wait 3 weeks to get a thing done. You can wait 3 weeks to get a picture done, maybe, but for the most part, no.
You
Like, really, you
can't
can't.
wait 3 weeks if
Like,
your website's down or if your
right?
email's not working, right? It really is true. I can't emphasize what Michelle has just said enough because, and as one example, towards the might have even been the start of this year, end of last year, start of this year, my website host was having all kinds of problems. It was down multiple days in a row. My email did not work for either of my businesses for 3 days straight. I could not send or receive an email. It was like, stop everything. We have to fix this. And so they ended up moving website hosts for multiple of my sites, resetting up and reconfiguring all of my email, running all of these tests, right? And this was not something that I had the time to do.
Or the wherewithal or the anything, right?
I realized after a few hours, like, oh my heavens, my email's not working. This is really weird to have quiet email. And then this went on for 3 days. So
Or you call tech support and they're like, oh, have you uploaded the blah, blah, blah yet? You're like, what?
yeah, go here, enter
What?
this key before we can even help you. I know.
Right.
Yes.
Just
So
get tech to stand on line with tech because then they can call each other on the shit and go, no, that's not the problem. But and they start talking acronyms. It's really
right.
cool to listen to. But
Go
you
Brad.
do you. I'll
This
do me.
is a plug for Brad. Go Brad. Go Brad
Well,
and team. Yes. So it really is critical. I know that there's a lot that we could talk about that lives in that world. But Michelle, where can people find you? Where do you like for them to connect with you online?
Nice. Well, the first thing we like to do is make sure that your website is up and running. So go to awarenessstrategies.com/website dash audit, and you can go and put your website in there, and it'll pump out a 36 to 45, depending on the size of your website, page report that you can start to see all of the things that you're doing: red light, yellow light, green light, just like the traffic. Red means stop, don't do this anymore. Google hates when you do that, and you're going to get slapped on the wrist or ignored, which is even worse. And then you have your yellow, which is warnings. Hey, you might not want to be doing this, or this could be done better. This is like, you want to take this, but do that after the red ones. And then, hey, these are all the green lights. Yay, you're doing this right. Congratulations. Good for you. And we usually find that people have at least, 3% of those. So
Right.
you'll
I'm
be
like,
okay.
I know in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I need to go do this thing. Okay.
Mhm.
I will share that link for the website audit at the show notes page, which you can find at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Michelle, I heard you say you're on social media, but I'm not going to direct people to any particular one until you tell us where you like to show up.
Awesome. Well, if you'd like to get a hold of me, I am almost always on Facebook, as of the recording of this, until they shut me down and the government of Canada shuts me down because I've been a bad girl lately. But, I like to be a little controversial. It's fun. So you can go to Michelle.Nedelec #1, because they took away my account. I was so mad. I was Michelle Nedelec for like 10 years on Facebook. And then they did this huge overhaul and I got a new name and I was so mad, but oh well.
Oh man.
So yeah, I'm Michelle.Nedelec1, but everywhere else I'm Michelle Nedelec,
Okay.
Twitter, LinkedIn. Um, Find me on
Okay.
Discord because I don't know how to use it and I need friends.
Perfect. Go connect with Michelle on Discord. That's hilarious. We'll share all of your social links. And then,
Awesome.
so folks, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh my heavens, I need help in this area, do reach out to Michelle and Brad. They can also be found online at awarenessstrategies.com. Michelle, what final thoughts or action steps would you like to leave people with today?
I would like to leave you with this. It took me 3 years to start my first podcast because of the tech. I didn't know what platform to use. It was confusing to me, even though I knew what an RSS feed was and I'd put them on many websites. I didn't get the whole thing. Don't let that happen to you. You have a phenomenal idea within you. You have a fantastic business that needs to get online. All you need is a little bit of support in that area. And as soon as you're done, you're like, oh my God, why didn't I do this years ago? This would have been so much easier. And really all it takes is start with a phone call and figure out, where you're at, how we can simplify your life and make it easier for you so that you can go and do your jam. Because doing your jam, whether it's, helping people with their tech, writing copy, or doing pottery, we
Any
love
of
to
the
help you.
above, right? Babysitting. Do you do babysitting? I'm kidding.
Puppies.
But yeah, I've got one that's been squealing. All right, Michelle, you're
Awesome.
awesome. That's a great takeaway tip. If you have felt stalled on anything in your business, don't let it keep you there any longer. Reach out and get some support. Michelle, thanks for coming today. It's such a
Thank
pleasure to
you.
connect with you.
It's been awesome. Thank you. Have fun.